Hey, it's Mr. Serfass here with a review of this week's TDA. This was the TDA itself. Clever speechwriters use clever comparisons. Examine Dr. King's use of comparisons and I Have a Dream. I wanted to start by showing off some of the illustrations that this wonderful writer and student did. You can see they have the state and city. That's one of the comparisons in the speech. And you can see that they compare black and white. And there's plenty of others too. Sorry, just putting that down while I turn the page. They have their dream versus the American dream. It's deeply rooted. And they also have the mountain of despair and the stone of hope that he talks about, and equality, or the notion of equality from the Jefferson quote. So this student does a wonderful job with that. Let's take a look at their first paragraph. One important person who did clever comparison was Dr. Martin Luther King himself. Now, an improvement on this could be to mention that comparison, the one that the whole paragraph is going to focus on, but you can see that they're answering the prompt right away. All right, they really did a nice job. One shortfall that happened in one of the other essays that was still pretty good, but they mentioned the word comparison, but it didn't make its way later into the essay. So that was one mistake I noticed. They used the word comparison, but didn't use it in reference. There's my little 1-year-old. They didn't use it that much, or rather they didn't use it in relation to a quotation. And if you look at the rubric, you can see that you have to mention the prompt. You have to reference the prompt. This is someone else's rubric, right? So that's something we want to work on this week, but they still did nice because they did a nice effort and they still worked with it. So it's a fine first draft, which all of these are. Here's another good one. Look how they have the title, Dreaming, right? And then they go right into it. In King's speech, the second comparison he uses is, "It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream." This quote shows that no matter what happens, he won't give up on his dream. This comparison also shows that he's not the only person dreaming this dream, right? That it's a shared one. I love this analysis. With a little context, it would even be a more complete body paragraph, but I like what they're doing. They definitely are analyzing what they were asked to analyze. And they have all sorts of, I guess this is from Dr. King's assassination, right, so they definitely work into history from class earlier that we were looking at when we looked at the some of the video stuff. All right, this was all based on this speech, right? The I Have a Dream speech. And you can see that what we did as a class is we underlined all of the comparisons, and then the TDA was spent just choosing 3 to talk about. Here was a nice little use of quotes. You shouldn't be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. He wants to tell everyone that everyone is human, which makes them all equal. Lastly, he wants to tell everyone that they should come together to create peace. So we have some analysis here. If they were to use the this noun verb and conditional sentence, I bet that would be even sharper, right? Notice how each draft, nothing's perfect, but there's a lot of great stuff going on, and that's what one would expect around January. All right, this last one here, there's a lot of good work with comparisons, a lot of good work with the illustrations as well. Here's the Million Man March right there. Very cool. All right, that's a nice important piece of context when you work on your second draft. Hey, so the last thing I wanted to talk about was I noticed on this TDA, and this can be used in years in the future because January and February is always a tough time in middle school, is that sometimes students weren't quite focusing the way they needed to. Picking apart Dr. King's words is difficult to do. He's a great orator. He chooses his words carefully, so it takes careful consideration to examine and analyze them. So if you look at eSchool, or when you get this essay back, and if your student, or if you're a student watching this, have less than 65% on this essay, this might be an attentional problem. This might be, I wasn't focused that day, I didn't feel like it. There was something getting in the way of you and your academics. So you need to try to do a little survey with yourself and think, was I really the student I want to be when I took this test usually on Friday? So that is something to consider and carefully consider this weekend. All right, have a good one.